Howdy, friends, and thank you for joining me for the City of Cleveland's inaugural Council Member Video Interview Series. I'm your host, Seth Sumner, and we will begin to dig in a little bit with our City Council members to give you an opportunity to learn more about them and their hopes and dreams and the work that they are doing on our behalf. This being the inaugural video of this series, we thought it best to ask that our newly elected Vice Mayor, Mr. Ken Webb, join us so we could get to know you a little bit better. Ken, welcome to the video series.
Well, thank you, Seth. It's good to be here today. And, I'd like to say that I really appreciate the historical branch of the library allowing us to use their facilities today. This is really a testimony to why you try to restore old buildings, and you do not let this history get away from you. If you've never been to this place before, you really need to come see it.
This is a beautiful place, and I am very thankful that they're allowing us to film here today.
I am too.
And in this beautiful room where we're launching this in December, right ahead of Christmas, and so thankfully it is decorated and ready to go.
We're ready to go. Ready to go.
So, Ken, first of all, congratulations on being elected Vice Mayor by fellow council members. I know that with Avery Johnson leaving City Council, it's some big shoes to fill.
There are some big shoes to fill, and Avery served the community for many, many years. You know, he was a councilman for the 3rd District for years, then at large, and also served in the vice mayor role for years. And you're right, the community owes him a big debt of gratitude for the time and effort and service that he gave to his city. I'd also like to thank my fellow council members for having the confidence in me to name me into this position with Avery's retirement. I will tell them, as I will tell any citizen, I'll do my best in the position, but it is an honor to be able to serve in this capacity.
Now, Ken, you've been serving how long for City Council?
I'm in my 7th year.
7th year. And in your time, what changes have you seen take place with this council?
Well, we've seen some faces change, but I don't know that I see a lot of changes in what the council is trying to accomplish, other than the fact we're seeing some things that we have worked on for years being completed. We've talked about Inman Street for a long time. We've talked about Johnston Park and downtown revitalization in general. And we're seeing some of that come to bear the fruit of it. And it's really rewarding to see all of that beginning to come together. But the council itself, there's some new faces on there, but I still think the overall concept of the council and the responsibility of the council is the same, and the same desire to move Cleveland forward.
Let's get to know Ken a little bit better, and we'll go back before 7 years and your term on council. What led you to seek a seat with the Cleveland City Council? Well,
Seth, I've always been interested in government, and probably not a lot of people would tell you this, but one of my favorite classes in school growing up was 7th grade civics. And I had been involved in being around political races ever since I had been a young boy. My dad was a Republican committeeman in the north end of Bradley County. So every 2 or 4 years, I would always hear talk about upcoming elections and so forth. I worked 29 years at Cleveland Utilities and spent a lot of time working with the council. And I felt like a couple of years after my retirement that I had something to offer back to the community, and felt like I had a pretty good idea of how the council operated. So when Councilman Richard Banks decided that he was going to retire, the opportunity opened up, and I decided to go for it.
Certainly. Ken, what are your top priorities for Cleveland? as you continue your term?
Well, we have a lot of, some people would call them challenges, some people would call them opportunities, but I have three general priorities that I like to think of in my service to Cleveland. And one is to be a good steward of the taxpayer dollars. I think it's important that we realize that those dollars are hard earned by the taxpayers, and we have to work hard to see that they're spent in a reasonable and prudent manner. Another priority of mine, since I am an at-large councilman, meaning elected citywide, is that city services are applied equally over the city. And sometimes you have to look at a neighborhood, and it may not need the same city service that another neighborhood does. And I think we have to be real sensitive to that and provide those services designed in such a way that they meet the needs of the individual neighborhoods. And there's another element to our city, and that's the city employees. Mm-hmm. Without the loyalty and dedication of those city employees, our city doesn't work. And it's a priority of mine to see that we give those employees the tools they need to do their job, the resources they need, and to see that they're taken care of financially for them and their families, and that we are competitive in the marketplace for employees. That's the three overriding priorities I have in helping to govern the city of Cleveland.
Very well said. Now, given those three priorities, what would you say your plan would be to work with Mayor Brooks and the other city council members to see that those priorities are implemented across the city?
Well, I think we do that some through the budgeting process. Every council member comes to the board with a different idea of priorities. And I think we have to discuss those and establish the priorities that we come up with as a joint group. I think it's important that once we make a decision, that we bury the alternatives, and then we all support the decision that was made collectively and move forward from that spot. So that would be my response and how I would want to work with the mayor and the other council members.
What do you see as the most pressing issues that our city is facing right now?
I think here again, one of the issues that we're facing is infrastructure. I think we've made some great strides in catching up, if you will, where we were getting behind. But I also think it's important that we don't allow ourselves to get behind again. Mm-hmm. And we still have some areas that we are behind in. You know, I wish I could wave a magic wand and we had the money to address all the transportation issues that we have. But they can be massive and they can be expensive to address.
That's true.
And I think we have to look at it in a logical way and start addressing the most important issues, the most congestive issues. One of those would be North Ocoee and 25th Street. I'm so glad that we have the state back involved on addressing that. And we're on a timeline now that over the next 3, 6, 7 years, that hopefully we'll address that transportation issue there. But there are a number of places like that. 3rd Street, the new bridge, that's not going to be a short-term solution. Mm-hmm. But long-term, that's going to change the whole complexion of downtown. And I think it's going to go a long way toward addressing some traffic congestion in that area.
Transportation certainly is at the top of a lot of folks' lists. What are your thoughts on economic development for the city?
Well, I'm extremely supportive of economic development. I'm supporting or support what our Chamber of Commerce is doing. Mm-hmm. I've been here ever since I was born, 70 years ago. And when I think about the businesses and industries that used to be here that are no longer here, it's so important that we're always adding new businesses, that we're always growing. And, one of the issues we're going to face before long is we're out of industrial park land, pretty much. And I'm real supportive of the efforts of the Chamber of Commerce and the Industrial Development Board in attracting industries to Cleveland and industries that have good paying jobs. I'm one of those that believes that if you're not moving forward, you're backing up. Mm-hmm. That just staying where you are, the status quo, is just not an option.
Looking far into the future, what are your hopes and dreams for this community?
I hope right now we have a community that people are wanting to move to. And I've always said that I'd rather live in a community where people want to move to instead of where people are moving from. And long term, I hope that 20 years from now, we still have a community that people are wanting to move to. That it's a good place to live, that it's a safe place to live, that our schools are good, it's a good place to live, work, and play. And I hope that we're able to address some of the issues that can accommodate that growth.
Certainly. And I believe the city council and the city manager have lined out priorities and budgeted for those. I can see the work happening around our community that is starting to address those concerns.
Oh, I think so. I think we've seen more long-range planning in our community in the last 5 to 10 years than we've seen maybe ever. So it's very, very important that we do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are you most proud of the city accomplishing during your 7 years?
Okay. A number of things. We have our financial house in order. I was not on the council when the effort started to move away from the variable rate debt that we had, but I was there when we were able to complete that process. We have eliminated a lot of unknowns from a budgeting process by being able to convert a lot of that variable rate debt to fixed rate debt. I'm also proud of the fact that we're seeing some of these projects that we've talked about in the past become completed. Johnston Park, Inman Street. We're in the process of making some improvements on Paul Huff Parkway. I'm proud we've been able to do some of that. And I think that we're going to see more benefits coming out of that long-range planning over the next 2, 3, 5 years than we've seen in a long time.
Certainly. And there's been a lot of community engagement with those plans. I know as we've looked at the Inman Street project, that was led by Main Street Cleveland, actually 20 years ago, was put into a downtown master plan. And it's wonderful to see the city council having our financial house in order, being able to fund those kind of projects that have been hopes and dreams for our citizens for a long time. So we're certainly able to see the impact of that work by our city staff and our leadership from our city manager and our city council, and the citizens showing up and coming to meetings and letting you know their concerns.
And it's just like the Cherokee Hotel and the old alternator building. I know the initial objective, and everyone would like to have seen a hotel replace the Cherokee Hotel.
Sure.
But that didn't work out. And I'm excited about us being able to move City Hall over there, the new chamber for council members next door. And I think with what we have seen on Inman Street, Johnston Park, Cherokee Hotel when it's completed, the renovation of the old alternator building, we're going to see a real catalyst for downtown. We've already seen other projects down there, the Sandehoser Mill, the Agora, the HHM offices, and the whole culture of downtown is changing from what it was just a few short years ago. And I think we're going to see more and more of that in the future, and I'm proud to see it.
It certainly is a beautiful thing, and it speaks to the strength of our community. I think about, working out. They would tell you, you have to have a strong core, and that's true with our physical body as well as our physical environment for our community. And I know that we've heard from leaders around the community, when industries come, they want to go downtown. They want to see that we have activity, that we're taking care of our community and our historic places. So really appreciate your leadership with that.
Well, thank you, Seth. Well, what I hear is that when prospects are looking at us, they're interested, obviously, in our schools, but they're interested in a lot of quality of life issues.
That's right.
And I think we have a council on board now that when we're making decisions, what it's going to do and how it's going to affect the quality of life in Cleveland weighs very heavily into the making of that decision. And I'm proud to be a part of the council that can think forward like that.
Yes, sir. Vice Mayor, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, I mentioned earlier about being a good steward of taxpayer dollars. I will bring up one project that is kind of an example of that, I think. We all know Huff Parkway needs paving. And we could spend city dollars and pave Huff Parkway. We could have done it 2 months ago. And you're talking about maybe a $3 or $3.5 million project. But we're partnering with the state on that. And when you partner with the state, you do things on their timetable. And that's okay. Well, they're going to pay 80% of that. Well, instead of paying 100% of $3 million, we're going to pay 20%. So the council has to look at things like that when they're trying to be a good steward of taxpayer dollars and say, yes, maybe a little inconvenience or a little frustration is created, but look at the dollars we've been able to leverage to get this done. And I think sometimes that's when we see projects people think get bogged down, that the funding has become the real issue. And we're trying to balance that with other financial needs of the city.
Very well put. Vice Mayor, thank you for being with us on this inaugural video series. We're looking to put one out per month and have an interview with each of the council members and our mayor and share more about our city council and the direction and work that you're leading us in, and the work that you are doing on our citizens' behalf. Viewers, thank you for sharing a moment with us. I hope that you stay safe, that you're having fun in this beautiful community, and may God bless Cleveland.